Story 1. The man under my bed. I was 22 when this happened. Just a year and a half ago. I had just moved into my first apartment, still settling in. The door locked automatically when shut. A small detail that ended up meaning everything. One day, I stepped outside to check the mail at the front of the complex, phone pressed to my ear while chatting with my boyfriend. When I got back in, I tossed the mail on the bed and kept talking. At some point, my phone slipped from my hand and slid under the bed. I leaned down, reached into the shadow, and froze. There was someone under my bed. Every instinct screamed to shout, but I didn't make a sound. He was lying perfectly still, back toward me, head tucked into his chest. I couldn't see his face, and, thank God, he didn't see mine. Keeping my voice steady, I picked up the phone and said, "Sorry." I dropped my phone. "I'm going to take a shower. I'll call you back." I walked into the bathroom, locked the door, turned the shower on, and climbed straight out the window. From outside, I called the police. They told me to wait somewhere safe, but keep eyes on my apartment. So I crouched behind a car across the street, watching the front door and my bathroom window. My boyfriend arrived moments before the police. I handed my keys over. Minutes later, 2 officers walked out, escorting a thin, well-dyed man. One officer stayed with me, keeping me calm, until he told me the part that still turns my stomach. That man had been standing outside the bathroom door with one of my kitchen knives, waiting for me to come out. He'd slipped in while I was checking the mail. He was homeless, severely mentally ill, and taken to a psychiatric facility. My boyfriend moved in the very next day. The police told me the way I handled it likely saved my life. If I'd screamed, things might have ended very differently. Story 2. The Orange Market was a Friday night after a short shift at work. My aunt, also my boss, asked me to pick up spoons for a huge ice cream event. The only store with the heavy-duty kind was across town. I took the fastest route, straight through the sketchiest part of the city. Snow still lined the roads from the night before, but I figured it'd be fine. 5 minutes in, I saw him, a man walking through the snow in shorts, a t-shirt, and a backward cap. 10 degrees outside, and he didn't even shiver. My first thought was to pull over, but my mom, on the phone with me, immediately told me not to, reminding me of a local kidnapping from a few years back. I drove past, and less than 500 feet later, a car suddenly pulled out from a field entrance and began following me. No road there, no reason they should have been waiting. I turned. They turned. I looped a roundabout, skipped my exit. They followed perfectly, 2 miles from the store. I ran a stop sign on purpose. They ran it too. I pulled into the lot, hoping to lose them in the gas station attached. They stopped on the road, watching. Minutes passed. They didn't move. When I finally went into the store, a white van with covered windows pulled up right next to my driver's side door, engine running. Every alarm in my head went off. I stayed inside. Eventually, the van moved, and the car reappeared. They spoke briefly, then drove away together. When I finally got to my friend's house, we saw an orange mark on my tire, and a metal pipe wrapped in duct tape buried in the snow in my truck bed. Police took the pipe, but couldn't do much else. No crime had been committed. But I know, without a doubt, if I'd gone back to my truck that night, I wouldn't be here telling this story. Story 3. The dead woman late one night on the subway. My car was nearly empty. Across from me sat a woman between 2 older men, and from the moment I sat down, She stared, not glanced. Not looked, stared, unblinking, unmoving. I tried to ignore it, but the longer it went, the more my skin crawled. Then a tall man in a trench coat stepped in and sat right next to me. He didn't say a word. Neither did the woman. The train slowed for the next stop. Suddenly, the man grabbed my arm and pulled me off the train. I yelled, demanded he let go, until he said, "Calm down. I had to get you off that train." Confused, I asked why. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "The woman across from you was dead. The men were holding her up to make it look like she was alive." My blood went cold, and I realized she never blinked. Story 4. The man in my house. I was renting a small house outside the suburbs. Winter nights came early, and when I got home one evening, the only lights were from my headlights and the porch. That's when I smelled cigarette smoke. Odd. Because I didn't smoke, I shrugged it off and went to bed early. Hours later, I woke to footsteps in the house. I thought maybe my friend with the spare key had come by, but when I called out his name, there was only silence. Then, the footsteps ran up the stairs straight toward my room. I darted into the closet and pulled down the attic ladder, climbing up just as he ran past and into the bathroom. It bought me seconds that saved me. I was crouched in the attic opening when he came back, storming into my room. I could see only his worn jeans and work boots from above. He paused, then walked away. Seconds later, I heard a crash and a furious animal scream. Downstairs, chaos, furniture overturned, cupboards ripped open, and one thing missing, a kitchen knife. Police later found the side door forced open, cigarette butts, and meth-smoking tools outside. They said he'd been watching the house, that cigarette smell. Earlier, it was him. That night, I blocked the door with a shelf and stayed awake. Flashlight in hand, I stayed in that house 3 more years, but I never forgot the sound of those footsteps pounding toward me in the dark.